Hello there everybody, and welcome to the Entertainment Headquarters, your headquarters where we talk all things entertainment, movies, television, news reviews and more. And before we crack on, I just wanted to say I am freezing my fucking man tits right off my body. It's absolutely Baltic here in the UK. Honestly, it's like -3 outside. I've got the radiators on, the central heating on, full blast, and I've just had a steaming hot cup of coffee to get myself warmed up. But guess what? I faced the cold. I ventured outside. I had to run some errands, and on my way I went, fuck it, let's do it. I want to get warm, so I ventured inside the View Cinema, and I got myself on a seat, parked my butt, and I got myself to see The Beekeeper with Jason Statham. Now, The Beekeeper is something I did a trailer reaction for. I think the trailer came out in November, and I absolutely, just by the trailer, was thrilled. I thought, yes, this is definitely something I've got to check out. It looked action-packed. It looked like it was going to be brutal, and it looked like it had, you know, reminiscence of old action films like Under Siege. You know, it's got elements of John Wick, and it's got elements of The Punisher, who's a vigilante who goes out and, you know, does justice for those who have been wronged. And basically, that is the premise of The Beekeeper. But to go into more detail, I'll quickly look at the plot synopsis. And the plot synopsis is this. One man's brutal campaign for vengeance takes on a national stakes after he's revealed to be a former operative of a powerful and clandestine organisation known as Beekeepers. So that was the plot synopsis, but let's talk a bit about the cast. So outside of Jason Statham, you have Emmy Raver Lampman as FBI agent Verona Parker. You have Josh Hutcherson as Derek Danford, Jeremy Irons as Wallace Westland, Gemma Redgrave as President Danford. You have Minnie Driver as Director Howard, which I don't even, to be honest, I'm surprised you blink and you miss her, basically. I seen her in the trailer and I thought, oh, I've never seen Minnie Driver in anything decent for quite some time. So I was curious. I'm going to just put it out there, it was a waste of fucking time. She was in it for 5 minutes, blink and you'll miss her. Then you've got Felicia Rashid as Eloise Parker, who plays the lady who basically Jason Statham's character, who is Adam Clay. You don't know anything about him at all. All you know is right at the beginning of the film is he's renting out a shed on a piece of her land, on the piece of Eloise Parker's land. And, you know, she's a vulnerable lady, older lady, who she's worked her entire life. She's worked, you know, she's the head of a children's charity. You know, she's trying to do things that occupy her time to keep herself from being lonely. And, you know, she's worked her whole life, and then all of a sudden she's sitting at her computer when suddenly this emergency message pops up on the screen, basically saying your computer has a virus, it's under attack, ring this number. She rings the number, and of course it's this massive crime organisation that is decides to con her out of all of her savings and also steals the money that she's in charge of for this children's charity. Over $2 million is stolen from that account, and I think something like 200,000, that entire life savings, is taken away from a personal bank account. And, you know, that alone is terrible. It's heartbreaking. You know, you hear stories in real life of people that do generally get conned. It's like all of, you know, vulnerable people, elderly people, lonely people, you know, people take advantage of them, and you hear stories about it all the time. I hear stories at work. I've heard stories from relatives about people I know who's been conned out of money, and, you know, it's devastating to them. So that element of this story is true to life, and unfortunately the character of Eloise decides, because she's lost everything and she's totally distraught, totally devastated, she makes the choice to take her own life. Then here we go with Adam Clay, Jason Statham's character. He obviously, prior to this event, you know, he's going about his business as an actual beekeeper, growing, you know, bees, herding bees, you know, collecting honey, and, you know, he's living a peaceful life. And he says something very interesting, and he says, "You're the only person that's ever looked after me." And he says that to Eloise Parker at the beginning when they're in the middle of a conversation. And I find that very interesting, because the character of Adam Clay that Jason Statham plays, you don't actually find out anything about his history, about his backstory. It's simply A, B, C. This tragic event happens where Eloise chooses to take her life. He is obviously devastated, and he's also enraged and angered because he then discovers via her daughter that she was conned out of her money. All of this money was stolen. So he then takes it upon himself to go after the people responsible that in the end cost her life. And, you know, it's a revenge flick, and it's a revenge flick that, you know, there's plenty of decent action in it, some really strong violence in it, and some very creative fight sequences. And Jason Statham, I have to say, this is probably his best performance that I've seen him in. Outside of The Wrath of Man, he was fantastic in that. You can forget about The Meg. The Meg was just Jason Statham being Jason Statham on, you know, on a water ski, killing a CGI shark. This is a masterpiece compared to that pile of shite. I cannot stand The Meg 2. I went to see it. It was more the first one. I liked the first one. The second one was a pile of shite, in my opinion. But this really, Jason Statham, who also was an executive producer on this, literally put his heart and soul into this, and you can see it with the action sequences. The film was directed by David Ayers, who did Fury, who did I think the first Suicide Squad, but this for me is one of his best films. I think he did Training Day. Training Day was very well done as well, but this for me, outside of Fury, which starred Brad Pitt, which was just a tank battle war film, this is his next best movie. And Jason Statham's character obviously goes after the villains who don't understand or know who he is. And you, as the audience going in, you still don't really, for a while, understand who he is or what he is or what, you know, his intentions are. You just think he's gone kind of berserk and went on like a crazy vigilante, you know, killing spree, which he does, but he's doing it for the right reasons, and he's bringing justice in his own hands. Now, playing the villains of this, vigilante revenge plot, is you have Josh Hutcherson, who plays the character of Derek Danford. He's just a snot-nosed brat. He's just a snot-nosed, coke-fueled, spoilt brat that is running this organisation which is like a call centre front, and he's conning innocent people out of their money, and he's just a slime bag, and you want to see him get his comeuppance. One of the most interesting characters I found in this is the one that Jeremy Irons plays, which is Wallace Westlade, I think his name was, but he was the head of the CIA. And believe it or not, there is a plot twist where he has been put in charge to basically babysit and to make sure that the character of Derek doesn't do anything ridiculous, doesn't end up in the news, doesn't do anything to shame or embarrass his mother, who happens to be, and this is a plot twist, I'm sorry, there's no way you can talk about this film without a couple of plot twists, but she's there to guide him and to keep him out of the public eye and to keep him, out of, embarrassing himself. And the reason for is his mother is the President of the United States, the newly elected President of the United States. So you have all these these amazing little twists and turns. And also, of course, something that I found quite, the heart of the story is you have also the character that, if I get the name up again, Emma Rava Lampman plays FBI agent Veronica Parker. She is the heart of the story because Eloise Parker is her mother. So she's trying to solve her mother's, death, who she originally believes has been murdered, but it turns out she's committed suicide due to her losing everything she's ever worked for, and the life that she built for herself has now basically been taken away from her. So you have two different people. You have the character of, Veronica Parker, who's trying to bring justice for her mother the right way, the legal way. Then you have the Jason Statham character who's going on this vigilante spree, and he's just wiping out and connecting the dots to everybody that's connected to this organisation that's cost Eloise her life. And it's really well put together. The plot, I thought this potentially could have some campiness to it, but I generally found this was quite grounded and quite serious. The campy bits just comes to the one-liners, and the great thing is about this is the metaphors that they use throughout the plot. Like, he is a beekeeper, that is his cover-up, but he is actually a beekeeper agent, which is a organisation that everyone kind of fears because it works outside of the law. And how the beekeeper organisation works is it basically, it's run like a beehive. That's why they are called the beekeepers, the beehive. They basically are there to make sure that all of the things in society run smoothly. So the government is running properly, is working properly. All of life, social, economic, things that keep us functioning in our day-to-day lives, our society runs smoothly without any interference or any issues, if there's any probably terrorist attacks, or if there's somebody that's taking advantage of the government who is affecting public life, they will probably come in and eradicate any issues that affect the running of everyday society in the real world. and they go above and beyond, and they also work outside of the law. And basically, Adam Clay looks at what's happening like the beehive. So basically you have worker bees, you have soldier bees, and then you have the queen bee. And he's basically seen he is seen kind of in this beehive, he is seen a weakness, and he is seen, a poison within the beehive that he needs to eradicate so the beehive can work properly. And that's basically the metaphor behind this, with the society, with, crime, with people taking advantage of other people. And he's there to eradicate all of these things that will affect, people's lives. And so he goes on this vigilante spree. The performance of, the performance of Jason Statham is something that I don't think I've seen him do before. He comes across very cold, very, I would say regimental. Like he's working like an ex-soldier. He's working everything. He kind of have everything mapped down. He kind of knows what he needs to do, and he's cold and he's brutal, and he will not rest till he completes the mission, which is to eradicate the villains of this film. The actions in this movie does not disappoint. There are some very inventive action sequences, as well as some inventive kills. I love the scene when there's another villain who, in the first half of the movie, is running the initial call centre that Jason Statham decides to just rock up to with 2 canisters of gasoline, and he says to the people at the front door, "I'm going to burn this place to the ground because you pick on the most vulnerable in society." And that's a no-no. That's a no-no to him. And one of the characters, the actor's called David Watts, and he plays the character of Mickey Garnett, he's a bit like the other character, Derek Danford. I first originally thought they were going to turn out to be brothers, but they're not brothers. And he's basically this snot-nosed little bastard who runs the call centre, and he thinks he's, Mr. Big. He's got all these fancy clothes on, and he thinks that, he's unstoppable, that, he's made it big in life. And there's an incredible scene with him and Jason Statham's Adam Clay's character, where after the whole call centre has been burnt to the ground, this cocky little prick decides to go to and track down Adam Clay, and goes to the house where Eloise lived, in the shed, the large shed area that he owns, and he keeps the bees in. And he goes with some thugs, some everyday, street thugs, and Jason Statham takes them out one by one. And the way he takes out that character is very inventive. What's he called again? Mickey Garnett, played by David Witts, who plays Mickey Garnett. How he takes him out, I thought was absolutely... You see a bit of it in the trailer, but it's even better when you actually see it, because once you get to know the character of Mickey Garnett, you want him to die. You want him to suffer. And, there's another thing with Jason Statham's character. He has this thing with fingers. That's all I'm going to say. He has this thing with fingers. Boom, boom. Watch your fingers. That's all I'm going to say. And even the villains, the Jeremy Irons character, who's looking after the spoiled little prick character, soon as he hears that, after the initial attack, even he's like, "Oh shit, we've got a beekeeper afterward." And obviously the character of Derek Danford's like, it's a beekeeper, it's a man that makes, he makes honey. he doesn't understand that it's a lot more serious. But the character of Jeremy Irons plays, Wallace Westwade, I can't even say the surname. He is feared. He is absolutely bricking it. He's absolutely terrified because he knows that what's coming after them is there's no way out. And basically that's one thing I will say that I found strange with the Jason Statham character, is he's virtually unstoppable, which, you know, I like a bit of vulnerability with me action heroes. Even with John Wick, if you got shot, if you got stabbed, you've seen him feel the pain and you've seen him kind of, you know, reflect back on it. But with Jason Statham character, he shows no real emotion and he shows no real kind of weakness, which I found a bit strange. But anyway, the plot, you know, it's your basic revenge film. The action speaks for itself. It's very creative in the action. All of the cast did a fantastic job in the roles that they play, from the hero to the more sympathetic to the villains you learn to despise. And Jeremy Irons, like I say, he is part of the team of the villains, but he's more in like an advisory role. But you still learn to kind of want him to meet his end as well. And you know, they're the good part of the film, is the characters. The acting was brilliant. The action is well put together. There's some great fight choreography, some very inventive kills. I love the bit with the honey. That's all I say. There's a kill with the honey. That's really good. Using the metaphor of bees, mixing it in, you know, to tell, you know, how society works and the weaknesses, the negatives of society was great. Having, you know, this story being based about people being conned out of the money, which is very serious, really, you know, got me hooked straight away and wanted to see it from beginning, middle and end. The negatives, I would say, about this film is it goes too fast. I honestly think some of the pacing for me just seemed to go from one place to the other a bit too fast. And I thought, you know, it is an action movie, of course. It's meant to be fast paced. But for me, it just, some of the editing and some of how it was put together for me felt out of place. I just felt too fast, that I was having to like rethink to myself if I missed something, or is there something that, you know, it just seemed to be going at a faster pace than I was expecting. And the other thing I found very, very strange was the actual ending of this film. There's no build up, there's no kind of, you know, you can see it leading to a certain thing. There's a massive, you know, fight sequence at the end. There's him versus the FBI. There's him versus this team of vigilante people that's been brought in to protect the young prick character. And then all of a sudden, when justice is kind of served, it just, boom, it ends. It just ends like that and then you see the credits roll. And I found that bizarre. I found that very bizarre, how fast-paced the film was, and then it ended with this quick flash ending, and I was like, is that it? But the positive is, it leaves you wanting more. And depending on how successful this film is, will we get some more? I would like to think we will, because like I say, this for me, and I said it when I watched the trailer, is a franchise starter for Jason Statham. This was a mixture of Under Siege meets The Punisher meets John Wick. And, you know, Jason Statham is, you know, an excellent action star. And for me, like I said, this for me was one of his best performances. Fuck the Meg. I don't want to know about the Meg. I want to know more about Adam Clay. and the Beekeeper, and I want to enter more into the Beekeeper world, because like I say, with John Wick, it started off as a one done where he was this man who lost his wife, lost his dog. He went on a revenge. The world got bigger and bigger, and until you knew all about the high table and the underworld of the assassins, and the Continental hotels and this underworld kind of business. With the Beekeeper, you haven't even scratched the surface of it. And I'm so curious to want to know more about Adam Clay and the Beekeeper organisation, and how far it stretches back, where it goes, what else are they involved in. And also with Adam Clay, you don't know anything about his backstory. All you know is that he's renting a barn to keep his honey in from the Eloise Parker character, this lonely lady who basically, she's lent him this land, and he's keeping her company, and she loves having the company because she's lonely. That's all you know. And then when she obviously commits suicide, and he's enraged because he says she's the only person that's ever been there for him, it made me extremely curious of what else has happened to this man in his past, because he shows really no other emotion. He's very flat, he's one-dimensional, he's one line. And then when he goes out for the bad guys, he kicks off and he fucking wipes them out clean. And it was so well done and well put together, that side of the flick. But like I say, my negatives are, it was maybe too fast-paced, that I was starting to think if I missed something, and the ending is so bizarre to me. How it just ends, credits roll, boom, you're done. And I even waited, mostly because I was freezing and I didn't want to go outside, till the end credit, but there is no end credit scene. So it's left a huge question mark for me. What the hell is going to happen next? If we find out, I don't know. I'd like to. But yes, well done, very well done. A really good action, fast-paced action film with great fights, an amazing story, believable characters. I had great sympathy for the character. I think, was it Veronica Parker, the daughter, who, she's played. Is it Veronica Parker? Was it Veronica Parker? Yes, it was. No, it's not Veronica. It's Verona. I'm getting her fucking name wrong. It's Verona Parker, sorry. Verona Parker. I had great sympathy for her, losing her mother and, wanting justice. And in the end, you'll just have to watch it to see what happens. But in the end, she is kind of side to side. There's his way of justice, there's her way of justice, and there's a few twists and turns along the way. But overall, a very well put together film by David Ayers. I believe it's probably his next best film outside of Training Day and Fury. You can forget about the Suicide Squad. I wouldn't even go back to that one. But this was, for me, another franchise starter for Jason Statham. He's left me with a lot of questions. He's left me with, things unanswered that I'm dying to know. And that's always a good thing. John Wick did well. That became a huge franchise. I can honestly see this going the same way for Jason Statham. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yes, great action, great story, believable characters, villains you love to hate. So for me, I'm going to rate this 8 out of 10. And the reason it lost 2 points is just for them things I said. It went a bit too fast-paced for me. I was thinking and doubting if I'd missed something. And also the ending. The ending is also a positive as well as a negative, because it's leaving you wanting more, but it also was kind of frustrating. But apart from that, 8 out of 10 is The Beekeeper. I want to know more about the Beekeeper organisation. I want to know more about, how the Beekeeper organisations work. I want to know about the hierarchy. I want to know about it all. So, like I say, For me, The Beekeeper, 8 out of 10. If you've seen it, let me know what you thought about this action-packed movie. Did you enjoy it? Did you think it was like John Wick? Did you think it was like The Punisher? Do you think it was like any other movie you've seen? If you haven't seen it, I do suggest you go see it. I do think you'll enjoy it. It is action-packed, it's fast-paced, it's got some creative action, some creative kills, and there's nothing more else I can say other than get yourself out, venture out and see The Beekeeper. It's well worth a watch. And Jason Statham, like I say, it's probably his best performance I've seen since The Wrath of Man, and it's another franchise starter. Fingers crossed. Until then, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying your television, and I'll see you at the next one.